Wow, 16 people waiting already. That's awesome. Hi, everybody. 5 seconds here we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to be here and to be part of this series. And I really want to thank the lovely Wasima for organizing this. She has done just such an amazing job. And what a gift this has been to our community. I'm really, really honored and touched. And hi, everybody. As somebody who doesn't do lives. And I did try a few months ago when I had my 500 subscribers, and it was kind of a fail. So I gave up, and it's just, I don't know, it was way too nerve wracking. But I decided when Wasima messaged me through Facebook that, okay, I can do this because, as you know, I love to talk if you watch my videos, and I have a lot to share. And so really, really happy to be here. And I guess I need to leave my glasses on because I can't read the chat. So going back to the very first half hour where Wasima introduced this New Beginning 2020, she opened the event by opening the directions, which was a really beautiful offering for everyone. And at that time, I offered to close the directions, but because of rescheduling, I'm not the last presenter, so I will not be closing the directions. And if that is a practice that you have, I really invite you after the next presenter, who is, oh my goodness, I'm not familiar with her channel. She is linked in the description box below, CooptyLew, I believe. After her presentation, I would really encourage you to close the directions, or just, like blow out a candle or something, just to bring this whole wonderful event to a close. Yeah. Also, in that first half hour, there were a couple of other suggestions. And one was to have a tarot deck, or a bunch of tarot decks, and to draw a card for each of the presenters, for each of the presentations. And this card would either reflect a message about the presentation that was coming up, or it would be something about the presenter, or you could interpret it any way you want. And so I've been doing that. So for each of the sessions that I've watched, I've drawn a card, and I've posted some of them on the Facebook group. So if you want to do that, that's great. And I've been working with my 8 coins for this event for each of the presenters. And it's a deck that I really wanted to kind of, I really want to get to know. Haven't been working with my tattoo type decks for a long time. And this one, I spent a lot of time edging and trying to get that red ink right around the side. It took a few goes to get the red just right. So I've been working with it for a few months. Anyway, so I'm really happy. This is the card I pulled for myself. So 9 of Cups, that's really, it's a blessing, and it is so much encouragement for me, because it just goes to show you that if you want something badly enough, you can have it. And there's this focus that's really, really necessary. And that's what I'm talking about tonight. I'm talking about the focus and the practice of really doing the work so that you can make those shifts. And I called my hour, finding your new groove. And that's what we're really going to talk about, is finding your new groove. I do not know the story of the Emperor's New Groove, so it was not a play on that by any chance. It was really more coming from, I'm a yoga teacher. Some of you know that. So of course I have a lot of yoga teachings that are going on in here all the time, and out here as well too. And so that whole idea of working with patterns and learning how to shift patterns is something that I'm constantly working with with myself. And when I'm working with clients and other people as well too, um, that's something that's something that I can offer. And so that's what we're going to look at tonight. And so I've divided this into four kind of areas that we're going to look at. And I just on the fly have decided to do this in a completely different order because when I was doing my last crystal workshop series, which I did at a metaphysical store in Vancouver, BC, I decided that I had offered the workshop in the wrong order. And the most important thing, I'm just pasting something here for you. It's a blog post from my website. Um, is grounding. Grounding is so very, very important. And I really think that before we can do anything, before we get out of bed in the morning, before we go to work, before we go to a meeting, and especially at this really busy time, when we're preparing for the holidays and stuff like that, grounding is just an invaluable, invaluable resource. So I want to speak to that because it kind of sets the groundwork for everything. And it's just been kind of my saving grace. And so I'm going to be really mindful of the time here too, because I don't want to spend too much time on this. If you and there's symptoms of not being grounded, and we are all guilty of all of these. Guilty is not really the right word. Day to day, different times of day, and we have different coping mechanisms. We have different ways of just kind of ignoring it. And one of the things for me is driving too fast because we want to get somewhere, because we have so many things to do, or because we left late, or because we were doing too many things before we went out of the house. And I just found that, especially over like recently, I've been really kind of wrapping my head around this. What does it mean to be grounded, and what are all the great benefits of being grounded? And so just being really cognizant of all of this. And everything I'm going to talk about tonight is about okay. Sorry, I got distracted. I thought it was a troll kind of thing that was showing up there. Um, I don't know if I've set anybody as a moderator, and if there's anybody that would like to mod, do you want to just say so, and I'll set that up. It is later at night on the coast, and so I guess anything can happen. And so getting back to the whole driving thing, driving too fast. So I've been really conscious about if people are behind me. So people are behind me in the car and they're coming up on the back bumper, to pull over and to find a place to pull over, because I've been consciously trying to drive no more than 10 kilometers over the speed limit, 5 to 10 kilometers over. I'm just kind of done with the driving 20 over and racing to get where I need to go. First of all, where I live, there's a lot of wildlife on the road. And also, it's just really, really not good for that sense of, being connected. And so I am, thanks, Nina. If somebody else said, sorry, I'm just going to take care of this, and on the cusp. There we go. Okay, so we have a couple of mods. Thank you very much for doing that. So that's one thing you can really watch for. And that, I guess, goes for everything that you do too quickly. So if you find yourself racing around and kind of darting around, if you fly for a living, or if you travel a lot for a living, that is also something that you're really going to need to pay attention to. And I have lots of tips on how to get grounded. So besides driving too fast, just generally feeling rushed and busy and scattered. So you're not able to collect your thoughts. These are all really kind of symptoms of not being grounded. And of course, the extreme of that is feeling like, you are on the verge of a nervous breakdown. So you feel that you might be feeling a little bit of tachycardia. You might feel short of breath. Maybe you feel like you have dry skin or you're parched, you're not hydrated, all those kind of things. I've got some funny things listed here too. Like you live for Fridays. Like all you do is you think about Friday, you think about the end of the week. So you're focused on the future. This is really interesting too, because in the science of Ayurveda, which is a sister science to yoga, body constitutions are divided into three groups. And the constitution, which is called Vata, which is connected to the primarily to the air element, is a constitution that focuses on the future and has a really hard time being here and being now. And so, if you have that sort of constitution, like a thinner body, usually taller, um, you do a lot of active physical activity. Also, you can be super intellectual. There's lots of characteristics to being like stereotypically Vata. Um, the reason why was I saying this? I'm losing my thing there. Um, these are also symptoms of being too much in that way. So, oh, I was talking about Fridays. Okay, so living for Fridays. So being one step ahead all the time, thinking about tomorrow, being in your planner too much and not focusing on the moment. Um, One of my daughters, who is super grounded, she, when we're talking about time, she has this thing where she says, if I ever ask her what time it is, she says, Mom, the time is now. And I think that's a really beautiful response. If you feel that you are working with somebody or living with somebody who's always racing ahead. And so the time is now is a really nice way to bring yourself down. If you sleep poorly, if fatigue is your norm, if you would rather not go outdoors because you are just feeling, you need to be doing your work or you need to stay home, that kind of thing. If you feel like going in the forest is creepy, that kind of thing, like you're afraid of the bears or you're afraid of the cobwebs as you walk through the path, that sense of disconnect between you and nature is a really kind of interesting observation that you don't want to connect, you don't want to be grounded. It's just not your comfort zone. So just be mindful of that. Um, if you feel spaced out, generally speaking. So, if you do a lot of tarot readings, if you practice a lot of yoga, there's lots of ways that we can feel really spaced out. And those, all of those symptoms, you need to balance out. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing a full day of tarot readings, but you need to ground in between, or you need to start your day by grounding, or you need to end your day by grounding. That will all make you feel so much better. You feel, oh, here's another one. This is really good. You feel above certain things and you don't see your faults and weaknesses or your patterns. So you kind of live like, this is pretty stereotypical, but like that kind of over that person who thinks they know everything, that they can do no wrong, the person that never says they're sorry, or yeah, you know what I mean? That kind of person. Definitely not the grounded type. You feel oversensitive to energy. So generally all kinds of energy, that can be technology, that can be the fluorescent lights in the ceiling, and just any kind of overstimulation from energy, televisions, noise. Like noise is a really big one. And this seems counterintuitive because you would think if the lights are buzzing or the noise is too loud, that you would be, what do I want to say? Anyway, all of those things kind of are symptoms that you need to connect and you need to ground and you need to be here at this moment. Okay. So, and the last one was driving too fast. So all of these are in that blog post that I posted up earlier, so you could scan back to see that. So the whole idea with grounding and being more centered is that you're going to feel better. and life is going to move smoother. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful way to start your day and to come back to during the day over and over and over again. And there's lots of ways you can do that, just by simply taking off your shoes. Like if you can take your shoes off underneath your desk at work, if you can take off your socks. Um, we're in the winter now in the northern hemisphere, so probably you're not going to take off your shoes and go to the beach or out in the grass. But there's different ways that you can actually feel that connection with the earth. Like all those kind of um, earth-centric things, like actually touching the trees and touching the plants and things like that will really help. And also, if you have indoor plants, you can always change the dirt, or you can add more dirt to the plants if they're getting, dried out, things like that. Stretch, move, dance, take a pottery class. Um, but not in the way that you're feeling like really fired up and it's like just for the exercise, but it's just for that whole being connected to your physical body. And if you, this really kind of speaks to the Suit of Pentacles too. I think with the Suit of Pentacles in the Tarot, we forget about that connection to body and the physical body. So just really being, Lucy says, try hugging a tree. Yeah, it does feel amazing. I want to share with you one of my practices about touching the trees because it's really beautiful. If you want to take a yoga class, that's something that people say to feel grounded. Make sure you take a yoga class that is more like a yin yoga class or a restorative yoga class, not a yoga class where, like, not a Bikram's hot yoga class or not a super active power class, because that is going to kind of be, that's not going to be exactly what you need. You need to land, right? And you need to slow down, and you need to slow down your breath. And then, of course, meditation. Meditation comes in all different kinds of forms. And some of us are really uncomfortable with that. And then the other one, the last one on my list is the use of crystals. And that's the reason that I wrote the particular blog class, because I was teaching a course on crystals. I just want to show you these two here. I can't see my camera because my blog is there. So these two beautiful rocks are septarian. And if you Google grounding crystals, this is not probably a crystal that's going to come up on the list. You're going to get things like hematite and yeah, Jennifer K agrees about the pentacles. There's lots of crystals that are going to help you feel connected to the earth, and a lot of them have a lot of iron oxide in them. For some people, hematite is way too strong. It's kind of got this magnetic pull that can really make you feel uncomfortable. So I often recommend red jasper. My other favorite go-to for grounding is the Shiva Lingam. I just absolutely love holding on to Shiva Lingam. And I have these ones here, these septarians. I have a couple in my home, and they just really feel almost like prehistoric connection to the earth, like really, really solid. And so, and shungite, of course. Shungite is amazing. And so what I do is when I go out, I like to have clothes with pockets, and I have a rock in both of my pockets. And so during the day, I can just hold on to these rocks. And it's just a really beautiful way to, throughout the day, just kind of do that. Of course, you don't have to go to a metaphysical store or a crystal store and buy rocks. You can go down to the beach and get some granite or something like that. It's just a really, really nice way to connect. So yeah, so those are some of my suggestions about grounding. And I think that, oh yeah, I mentioned K2, Kambaba Jasper, Tiger Iron. These are all just really beautiful earthy rocks. So the reason I want to talk about grounding is that when we are kind of wanting to make new intentions, we're wanting to move in a new direction, we're wanting to really kind of carve out a new path or figure out what's going on, we need to be well. We need to land, and we need to come from a place, from a strong foundation. And if our foundation isn't strong, it's really, really hard. Okay. So that's kind of, the first thing that I really tried and true want to share with you. So I'm just going to have a look here if there's anything. Yeah, oh yes, girl loves Septarian too. Shungite and smoky quartz. Smoky quartz is amazing. It's also known as the a shaman's crystal too. So when I did my shamanic training, that was one that we always had in our misa, and it's really beautiful energy. I have a large one at my house. So yeah. Oh, I was going to tell you my tree story. So I have a dog who you're probably going to hear tonight, a large lab. I can't even think what she is. She's a lab, but she's also part golden retriever. And so she's active and she needs to run, and we go in the trees, and you're probably going to hear her here tonight because she's not a very quiet dog. Anyway, we go into the forest, and what I do is I usually find two trees that are close enough together where I can place my hands on the trees. And I create this kind of space. And I close my eyes, and I only do this for a second. And I just feel and I see this kind of all this, I don't know, it's so hard to describe. I feel the energy come up through the earth. And behind my closed eyes, I can see this like backwards waterfall going up like this. And I just watch it, and I just watch it rise. And seriously, it just takes a second, and it's the most magical, magical experience. And I love doing that. So yeah. So land, that's number one. So number two, the second thing that I want to kind of offer tonight, and I'm going to go to my list. And I know that a lot of presenters have already talked about this tonight, and I'm going to try to bring in some of the comments from other videos. And I know you all didn't watch them all, and I didn't either. So there's a lot of repeat of things going on here, but that is really resolving to let go of what you're ready to let go of. And I guess the big part of that is the practice of letting go. And everything that I'm saying here tonight is, Lucy, you put your hands on the trees too. That's cool. Are tried and true practices. And I'm just going to interject here another little thing. So I have a few different teachers from different things I've studied. And one of my teachers, if I call her and I'm all kind of frenetic and I'm all like, what's going on? I don't understand. Why is this happening? Why are things not going my way? And, or I'm actually crying, or I'm writing this long emotional Facebook post to her. All she says to me is, Sadhana, are you doing your practice? And I can guarantee you that I'm not. And whatever that means at that time is, some months, some weeks, my practice is just doing 1 to 4 rounds of my mantra on my mala. Sometimes my practice is, I've lots of different practices, and some months it's more involved than others. But generally speaking, when I am strung out and I'm writing these long emotional emails to my teacher, I'm not doing my practice. And so my point here is that everything I'm offering today is something you need to incorporate, and I invite you to incorporate on a regular basis, whether that's 2 minutes in the morning, or whether it's just, what did you draw for me? You drew the 6 of Swords for me. That's funny. Which deck was that? And I'm sorry, there's probably lots of really interesting comments here, and I am going to read them back. But I just want to make sure I get through this content because I've got some really, I don't know, I just want to share this with you, and I hope it resonates. These things, just really important to bring in as a daily thing, because we can't shift, we can't find our new groove if we don't make all the baby steps along the way. So, first, you need to land. And then the second one is to really resolve to let go of what you don't need to carry. And usually, what's going to come up in a tarot reading is the Ten of Wands. Most Ten of Wands cards have somebody that's hunched over carrying way too much crap. And when that comes up in a reading, one of the things I say to the querent, or I usually always say, is that, is this your stuff that you're carrying? Is it yours or is it somebody else's? And why are you carrying it? Why? Why haven't you put it down? Why didn't you put it down months ago? And so this is not an easy question to answer. Sometimes it's because um, you can't step down from the volunteer position because nobody else can do it as good as you can. Because if you step down from that volunteer position, then what are you going to do? Are you going to pick up something else? And I know that was my story at one point. I was a chronic volunteer, chronic, like seriously messed up volunteer. I was on more boards and more committees I have 4 children, and it was madness. Why was I doing that? Why was I caring so much? And so, journaling through time and lots of deep thought and reflection, and it took years, I began to understand, what I had to let go of. And so, really, whether it's conscious or not, just understanding that we need to let go. And I'm going to give you some hows of how to let go, even if you're not aware of what it is you have to let go of. So it may be a habit that you're fully aware of, right? You might not be. It might be an emotion that you're tired of living with. It could be just a general mood or a behavior. I know for a lot of people it's anger, and we take our anger out on our kids or our dog or the people who are driving too slow, that kind of thing. We might need to let go of something more challenging like a job or a partner, um, expectations, and of course, your story. And then the other, something much simpler might be a material object. So, for example, wedding ring. What do you do with your old wedding ring? And that's a really good story, actually. It would be a really good thing to chat about, at another time. What do you do when you get divorced with your wedding ring? And I'll tell you what I've done with mine, but it took a while to figure out how to let go of that because that was a physical object that I designed, that I put a lot of love and intention into. And it was so much more than a wedding ring, it was a piece of art. What if you have a case of teacups from your grandmother, those old, beautiful china teacups? And they were your great grandmothers, they were grandmothers, they were your mothers. And how do you get rid of this kind of stuff? And why are you carrying it? And why are you moving from house to house to house? So, we can talk about clearing out and getting rid and letting go of physical objects, but there's also all that emotional stuff too, right? Um, Sorry, is this too much? I know I'm kind of talking fast. The Why do we hold on and why is letting go so hard? So I want to talk a little bit about the hands and I'm just going to briefly mention this because this is not a yoga class. So the hands are an extension of the heart. And when we find ourselves clinging and holding on too tight, holding on too tightly to our security, our relationship, a physical object, right? There's this sense of there's this fear, right? This grasping sensation. And so learning to kind of open the hands and to release and to let go is this really beautiful I don't know, it's scary But if you watch your hands on a day-to-day basis, like, do you walk and do you have your hands gripped like this or like this? Or do you like watch your hands, because our hands are a really good indication of that ability to let go. And there's just this kind of magical connection between the energetic heart space, and the hands. And that's just an aside. Um, so I want to talk about why we should let go, and what does this have to do with this whole new groove thing? Because um, it's hard and it seems cliche. And what does it matter if we let go, right? Can't we just keep moving on and moving on? In my experience, I don't think so. I think that um, I think we have a limited amount of energy at any given day, at any given time. And if we look at this in the metaphor of a cup, I'll have a sip of my tea. Um, and that was way too big of a sip. I've probably got a tea mustache. Um, if our cup is full, right? If it's full of memories, if it's full of emotion, if it's full of whatever, full of stuff, right? If you have a lot of clutter in your house, if it's full, there's no room for the new patterns to come in. There's no room for the new energy, the new relationships, the new job, the new optimism, whatever it is that you're seeking to come in. And so we have to unpack and we have to unload and we have to let that go. It's just so um, it's just so really important. And so I'm going to give you a few things that I do on a daily practice to let go. And I really, really loved the sharing of the labyrinth story. That's just really, really beautiful. I'm sorry, I got so much in my mind right now. So thank you to the person that shared their story of the labyrinth. That was really beautiful. I feel like I've made so many new friends today on YouTube, and it's just been brilliant. And over time, I will get to know all of your names. So does that make sense about the cup? Do you understand that, what I'm saying? I hope so, because it's just, I mean, there's other metaphors that I can use, but we need to start to unload and we need to start to let go. So the first one is just breathing. And so when people are frazzled and they come to me for a reading or Reiki or private yoga or whatever they come for, one of the things that I invite them to do is just breathe. And when people are breathing, that gives me an opportunity to be with them in breath. And I don't know if you've ever actually sat with a client and breathed with them, or it doesn't have to be a client. It could be your son, your daughter, your partner. And what happens over a certain amount of time is your breath will come into sync. Your respiration will come into sync, and you'll start breathing at the same rate. It's just this kind of law of, I don't even know what you call it. Um, but inviting breath. And the pattern of release is the exhale. So you want to, if your intention is to let go of whatever, so fill that blank in, then what you can do is just before you get out of bed in the morning, and I really like to do this. So I was talking about the hands and how the release goes through the hands. So if you focus on your heart space and you take your inhale breath up towards your shoulders, okay, and I'm not doing with this hands. My hands are relaxed on my lap or beside me in my bed. And then just watch, just feel the exhale go down the arms and out the hands. And then do it again. Breathe in from your chest up towards your shoulders, and then just watch the energy and then allow it to wash down your hands. And it's just this really beautiful pattern of clearing energy. And so the second part of that, of course, is if you are aware of what it is you want to shift, what you want to release, what you want to let go of, right? It might be grandma's teacups. It might be the guy lying in bed next to you. You can repeat that aloud or silently to yourself as you are exhaling. And you do it over and over and over. every single day. Maybe you're going to do it 3 times every single morning before you go to the bathroom, right? You just keep doing it with faith and with practice, understanding that I need to unpack, I need to unpack, I need to unpack. So that's one. Okay. Then the next one, of course, is it can be really hard. So we need to have resolve. We need to have some sense of strength. And I'm going to talk about intentions right at the end before we kind of wind this up. That'll be the last thing that we do. But sometimes we have to fake it until we make it. We have to practice the new patterns. And sorry, this is going to be a bit jumbled because I have a few things that are going to kind of overlap here. But this whole idea of fake it until you make it is not fake, it's a practice. And so if we're not used to speaking softly, it can feel fake, it can feel artificial. If we are not used to saying, the time is now, it can feel really phony. But sometimes we have to just practice what it is we want. And by practicing it or faking it until you make it, you can really start to turn things around. But it has to be consistent and you have to do it. You just can't do it once and then giggle and go, oh, yeah, whatever, right? You have to really do it again and again and again. It is a practice. And sometimes it is a fake it until you make it. The other way to let go is to say it out loud. And there's different levels of that. To actually hear yourself say, I need to let go of blank, can be really emotional. And it's really important. Mhm. I'm happy for you, Lucy. Um, it's really important that, sorry, I lost track. I do have a list here. Say it out loud. Okay. So saying it out loud, there's just this, just getting it out, right? Getting it out of your, just kind of, actually, it's like purging, right? You can say it out loud to the wall, to the microwave. I'm thinking of Shirley Valentine here, who talked to her wall. I don't know if any of you saw that movie or like that movie. It's just brilliant. I just love that. Um, but you can say it to the moon. You can say it to the stars at night. You can talk to the forest. But if you can say it out loud to uh, Nina, Nina, you know who Shirley Valentine is, yeah. If you can say it out loud to another person, that is really, really powerful. Oh, and the other one is the mirror. So if you can look at your own 2 eyes in the mirror and say it out loud into your own 2 eyes, that's really brilliant. But there's this thing about saying it to somebody else and actually articulating it, what it is you need to let go of. It's really, really powerful. Okay, so breathe, be determined. If even if you have to fake it till you make it, say it out loud. Practice opening your hands. Be aware of this whole clinging thing, okay, and that then sensation with that. Oh, I wrote it down here. It was Julianne Victoria through the Peacock's Eye who talked about the labyrinth. So that is, a really beautiful practice as well too. There's all kinds of practices, but I'm trying to keep it really simple because this is not complicated. In order to carve a new groove, we just need to do these simple things over and over and over again. Okay? Every single day. Every single day. So, how are we for time? Oh my goodness. All right. So, the third thing, if I can find it, and this is kind of, I don't know if this is a separate third thing or not. I wrote down acknowledge your grooves. So, in the teachings of yoga, there's this concept called samskaras. So, our patterns actually create these grooves, these ruts. And please know that all patterns are not negative, right? Some patterns are really good. They help to preserve us. They help to make us stronger. They help with our, They're really, really good. But what I'm talking about is the patterns that no longer serve us, the patterns that we want to change. So if you are not able to see your patterns, sometimes you need to ask for help. And that's why, the tarot comes into that. Um, oh, I've got a couple cards here. I just don't have enough time to say everything I want to say tonight, but I do want to show you these cards. I'm just going to pause here. I'll come back to the patterns in a second. One, so this is the Fool card from the Sastra Vito. And this is such a beautiful reminder that, yes, Sassy Burrito, that at any time, I mean, just look at this guy. I don't know why my camera's reversed. At any time along the way, right? Anywhere, any stage along the way, we can shift. We can carve a new groove and we can start to move in a new direction. We don't have to go down to that same path again and again and again. But this number 3 one is you need to know what that groove is. You need to know that you're in a rut. You need to recognize the rut. So you need to be able to kind of step back and look at the big picture, right? And so part of this whole rut thing is to just acknowledge it. And it's like at a amusement park. You know how those cars that they're in like the tracks, and so no matter what you do, like you can't steer it out of the track. You're in that track, and so some of these tracks are so deeply embedded. It's like painful to do it different. Like we feel like there's no way. So the question is, how do we get out of that groove? How do we get, up and out of that? And how do we change that pattern? Okay. So there's a few suggestions and key questions that you can ask yourself. So the first one is observe, observe, observe. So whether you keep a journal or not, or you just practice silence, I found silence is a really good way to start to observe better. And I'm actually going to start practicing silence 1 day a week, like the whole day, 24 hours. No YouTube, no Facebook, no talking to my kids, no talking to anybody, just complete silence, because silence is just this brilliant way of learning to listen and to be more aware. But you don't have to do that. Observe, observe, observe is number 1. Number 2 is to create space. So you might have to distance yourself physically or mentally from certain situations that you find yourself in those patterns. And that might mean that you can't go to that party. You can't go to that event because if you go to that event, you're going to fall into that pattern. And that doesn't mean that you can't ever go to that event or those kind of events or be with those friends again. But right now, while you are trying to make this shift, while you're trying to learn your new patterns and your new direction, you need to create distance. You need to create space. And you need to be kind to yourself and look after yourself and be okay. Be okay with making that shift, right? You need to know, like, from your heart, why, how is this all going to go about? So space is really, really important. Okay. So that space might be physical. It might be mental space. It might be emotional space. So one of the things that came up today was Tara. She, I love that presentation, by the way, and that reading she did with the clock. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. But when she did the reading in for herself in the third person. And so that's a really good example of creating space. So if you're going to do a reading for yourself, talk about it in the third person and journal about it in the third person so that it doesn't feel like it's your story, because you want to step up and out of your story. And you want to look at your situation, right, from a little bit of space and a little bit of distance. Um, Ask yourself, how do you want to be in this situation? So you need to be really clear about, so if you don't want to be in this rut, what does it look like if you're not in the rut? And so either paint a picture, make a collage. This is when vision boards are really good. Um, Journal about it. You need to be really clear about what it looks like when you're not in the pattern, so you can see that. So you can see that that new situation. What truth do you want to feel? What truth do you want to speak? And I touched on this before, but there's something about the voice in this that's really, really important. And if you cannot articulate to yourself what it is you want to shift, then I don't think the shift is going to happen. You need to be able to eventually, that needs to come up and out of you. You need to be able to share that. Yeah. The Um, there's so much that I can share. The throat chakra, so that clear and clean throat chakra. So all of those half truths, all of the secrets, the lies, the family secrets, the things that we don't talk about in the family, the things that we aren't allowed to say, or we weren't allowed to say, or we were told not to say, right? All of that is just like sitting there at the surface, waiting just to be like vomited out. And sometimes when we're going through this work, it can feel like vomiting, and we can get like it's too much. And so that's where you need to create this container and this distance and this space and really kind of come into the mood of this as a healing energy for yourself, right? So, take more baths, take more walks, go get a massage. Like this is really big work. Um and then the other one, this kind of comes from yoga, and that's that 180-degree thing. So if you catch yourself falling back into the old pattern, if you can stop and then do it differently. And the theory goes, and it is true, each time you catch yourself, if you can catch yourself a little bit sooner than the last time, then it becomes easier and easier and easier. And so that's how you start to carve the new groove, is you do it differently. It doesn't have to be 180 degrees, but it needs to be in a new direction. It needs to be in a new way. Right? Does that make sense? I'm just going to pause here. I'm just going to read what Masha said. Yeah. So, yeah, I didn't want to bring in too many of the Sanskrit terms and the yogic terms. I just wanted to keep this really kind of practical and accessible. And so I hope the things that I'm offering today have felt um, accessible, because for me, this shift. So, most of you don't know my story. So, I have been 2014, so, and was February. So, 2020. So it'll be almost 6 years since my husband declared he didn't want to be in this relationship anymore. And so it's taken me, I would say, gosh, I don't know, more than 4 years to really start to carve this new path. And it has been serious practice. And yeah, I've fallen off the wagon way seriously, fallen off the wagon way too many times. And so, you just get yourself back up and you start again and you start again. Yeah, the practice thing is just, if there's little stickies right on your mirror, like practice is a really big word. Yeah, okay. So the number 4 I wanted to talk about was working with intention, because this is really, really big. I also wanted to share with you this chariot card too, which I want to speak to. Hopefully we'll get to that. Intention. So we're coming up to the new year, 2020, and a lot of people set New Year's resolutions. And the thing that has really worked for me is the whole idea with letting go of the resolutions and to really working with intention. And for me, intention is not about a goal, right? So there's no end point. An intention is a direction. It's like saying, okay, I know that eventually I, I don't know. Don't even give you too many personal examples, but you know what I mean. Like, let's just use 10 pounds for an example. Okay, so this year in 2020, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Well, my first question is, why do you want to lose 10 pounds? Why? And that's a whole other journaling, you know, exercise. Like, what's that really about? And you are all wise and clever people, and you can work that exercise through. But my point is the 10 pounds is a goal. It has a destination. And the trouble with goals is that they're you can fail. And it's just really, really hard when we make goals. So the whole idea with an intention is to carve a path, to carve a journey, to make a direction. And so just to begin to define your intention without an end point. Okay, so you just begin to design your journey. The other things about intentions is there's so much more forgiving. So I like to call them detour friendly. Okay. Intentions are detour friendly. So, like I was saying, my journey to, recovery, being a single person, has been a long journey. And I have fallen off into the pits many, many times. Um, but I am still on the journey. And my intention is um, it's the same. And of course, it gets revised over and over and it gets edited and slightly modified, but there is no endpoint. I don't know what the endpoint looks like. Like, I don't want to say, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to, I don't know, my intention is to find a partner who is 10 years younger than me and just a real free thinker and a yogi. And, like what I mean, like that, like those are goals. And it's just, I really believe if you are doing the work, that all of this is going to fall into place. And so just carve out your path, um, carve out your journey, right? And not making it too specific. The other really kind of nugget here is where you focus your attention, things will begin to grow stronger. So this is like carving that new rug and turning around 180 degrees. So if you focus your attention on the goal, you're not focusing on the journey, on the how and the practices along the way, right? You're just focused on the end point. Um, and if you don't focus on the goal, that becomes a little weaker and weaker, and there's not so much energy put into that. We want to put the energy on the process. Does that make sense? I don't know. I kind of feel like the journey is the end point. Yeah. And there's so many beautiful quotes about the journey and beautiful songs about the journey. And so just enjoy the journey. It's just really, I don't know. And oh, that's why I wanted to talk about this, the chariot card. Okay. Just let me finish, look at my notes, and then I will close with the chariot card because I know we're almost at the end here. Um, Great. I'm glad that makes sense. And I'm really looking forward to going back and reading all these comments. The other, I won't lose track. I'll give you that last point. The other thing I wanted to say was I know there's a lot of you that don't have YouTube accounts. And so please, if you want to send me a direct email, my email is linked through through the main page of my YouTube page, or you could send me a message on Facebook. I'd really love to hear from you because I know everybody's not able to comment on YouTube. All right. Bring your intention to subtle practices and use your intention instead of a reaction. Okay, so the first one, bring your intention into subtle practices. So that's much like the breath thing I was saying. So when you're breathing and you want to kind of breathe in your intention and then let go of whatever it is you want to let go, So when you're doing your breathing exercise, if your intention is to, I don't know, let's keep it really simple. Like oh, I've got so many things I want to talk about. I wanted to share my malachite story too. I might have to do another live on this, or we could do a chats another way. So one of my personal intentions is to move with ease in my body. I feel that the all the stress tends to accumulate in my joints. And so I know when I am not doing my practice that my joints feel tight. I feel like I have more inflammation and all kinds of crazy things. And so one of my intentions is to move with ease. And then all of the benefits of that, are, I feel better, my skin looks better, I'm out in the fresh air because I'm doing things to support my intention of moving with ease. And I wanted to share you my malachite story. So, if you work with crystals and you buy a crystal at the store because you hear that that crystal is good for da 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 da. I really think that you can clear it, you can smudge it, you can put it out in the sun, put it out in the moonlight. You can do all that, but I don't think that crystal is going to work for you unless you put your intention into it. So my malachite story, this particular rock, I decided to put the intention of pain-free joints into this little piece of rock. And I swear to you, when I do that and I put this underneath my knees, if my knees are sore when I go to bed at night, when I get out of bed in the morning, I have no pain in my knees. It's like freaking crazy, the power of intention. So I really, really just want to give you this gift of practice. Like, keep doing these things, keep doing these things. So use your intention in subtle practice. So breathe in your intention, let go of what you want to let go of. And use your intention instead of reaction. So that's kind of a juicy little nugget there. So when you find yourself being triggered by something or by being drawn into something that is a pattern that you want to let go of, you want to have that intention to move with ease. So maybe I want to lie on the couch and watch Netflix all weekend or watch YouTube all weekend because I'm involved in this thing. I know that I want to move with ease. And so before I did this hour, I went out and I walked the dog, right? So you want to keep your intention alive and keep it well. So, okay, I know that's a lot. And I didn't get to the chariot card, but I'm going to save that for another time because I might just do um, a whole thing on the chariot card because that's a really great nugget. So I hope this has been helpful, and I'm sorry that I haven't responded to all of your wonderful comments. There's just so many great things going on here in the chat. Um, yeah, yeah, it's been awesome, and the next presenter is going to be on in just a couple minutes, and her link is down below in the description box. So that was one that was supposed to be earlier in the day, and I was supposed to be the last one, but there's one more after me, so hang in there. And I just want to really say thank you and namaste and blessed be.